Hello, Revere, and welcome to our Revere Veterans and Community Show. Today I have a special guest. He's been on before, and it's an honor to have him on every time. A lot of you people know him. He's a former member of the school committee. His name is Fred Sannella. Fred, thank you for coming on Revere TV.
Morris, thank you for having me again. Always a pleasure.
Right. First of all, introduce yourself.
Well, my name is Fred Sannella. I'm married to the former Grace Hill. I have a degree in education from Salem State College, a master's degree from Boston State College, CAGS from Boston State College, but more importantly, I'm a graduate of Revere High School.
That's a pleasure to have you there, Fred. Now, you're also a veteran of the community, you know?
Veteran of the community.
Right? You may not have been in the military, but you do a lot for the military. And one of the things, before we get into a discussion, I would like to say thank you, because you and I, I could walk, but you still can walk. We went around and put graves on the flags at, I believe it was Woodlawn?
Woodlawn and Holy Cross.
Yep.
And fortunately, since those years ago when there was 2 or 3 of us, the junior ROTC at the high school, which has been a very successful program the last 3 years, have their membership now with young hands and young feet doing the work.
So they do it?
Yes.
I'd like to ask you, Fred, how did the ROTC get started? When did it first come into Revere?
I would say approximately 3 years ago, and I have to say at the onset, I was a little kind of mystified, figuring, will it fit, won't it fit? But at the time, Dr. Dakin had researched it, had worked it out. I can't think of her name. She's a retired colonel who was in the head of the program, and a master sergeant.
You're not talking about Major Bowker.
Bowker, thank you, thank you. And they had opened it up for membership.
Yep.
Highly successful, to the point they had a waiting list. And there were days that they would wear uniforms to school, and again, being the kind of a doubtful, it was accepted wholeheartedly by the faculty, by the student body, that my first encounter with them was a Friday night football game at the stadium, pouring rain. I was helping out in the snack bar, and they came out with the colors, and they unfolded them, and they marched out for the Star Spangled Banner and everything. Precision right down the line, in formation. And since that time, it has grown to shovel sidewalks in the winter, take out trash if they have to be. They're a legend unto themselves. And it's a tip of the hat to the younger people that something different was offered, and they accepted it at its face value and made it better. So I am...
There's 2 people that I know that are there, Fred. One is Major Bowker, the other one is the sergeant.
Sergeant, yep.
I'm trying to think of his last name, but anyway,
they do
a fantastic job.
But to see, in fact, you had a show with them. I was here.
Exactly. Yep. We're out in the front there.
And we're just talking with them prior to the programming, and my brother was in the service, or my father, or I wanted this, that, and I want to go here. I want to, and to hear the animation that these people expressed, young adults, it was perfect. It was absolutely perfect.
Right, and you know, they're terrific, because I tell you why. When I look at those kids, and some of them are only 14, 15, just getting into high school, and the first thing they do is sign up with the ROTC, which is beautiful. Another thing I would like to say, we also go to Wakefield High School, Wakefield Memorial, and they honor the veterans, and we've been lucky, the 5 of us go from the Revere Senior Center to the Wakefield High School as part of a group them honoring the veterans, Fred.
Well, I also know, and I'm sure that you know, that the Paul Revere School has a Memorial Day program.
Every Veterans Day, right.
That they have photographs of family members of the faculty and students that they put on a disc, and there's background music, and it's just to be able to see from the Civil War, First World War, Second World War, Korean, Vietnam, former teachers and elected officials, and you sit there in awe to be able to relive or capture a period of history through generations. And the onset, it was small when it started, who added, and it just takes on a life of its own. It's superb. The city should be extremely proud of it.
I got to tell you, I would like to thank a couple of people there, but I know one of them that does a fantastic job is Barbara Kelly, the principal, I believe.
Yes.
And Terry and Serto, I believe.
Terry Inserto's the one that started
That's
it.
Yep.
And again, it was just for the school itself.
Right.
But as people went with it, the singing sergeant, the old state police sergeant, the MDC,
right.
He came and with his moving renditions of Shenandoah and the whole thing, and just to look there, the whole place goes quiet, and it's just up there live for everyone to see, and it just. I just think it's superb.
You know, if this show airs before Veterans Day, which is in November, and the people see it out there, and there are veterans, they should come down to the Paul Revere School and really enjoy the show, because it's one of the best veteran shows that I've seen.
Well, quite possibly, through your management here, there may be a possibility of showing, I'm sure this could be granted, to show for viewing public throughout your channel.
Right, that would be Revere TV8, and they do a fantastic job, and they also come down there and they film it too.
Yep.
So that's good. Now, Freddie, I want to get back to a few questions of you.
Yes.
Before we talk about schools and all that, people want to build new apartments in here. You heard that on the network on,
Yes.
at the Revere City Council meetings. Bringing in a lot of new apartment buildings brings in a lot of new families. A lot of new families bring in a lot of new kids. And a lot of new kids, of course, put a pressure on the school. How do you feel about that, if I may ask you?
Well, okay, let's kind of back up a bit. I was a former school teacher at the Lincoln School.
Right. Can I ask you one question?
Yes.
Before you, how many students does the state allow, or the law allow, for one teacher to teach, or is there's no limit?
I honestly don't believe that there is a limit state, but that's usually a contractual agreement between the local community and the Teachers Association or the Teachers Union, class sizes. Everyone tries to minimize it, but again, there are situations where you have no knowledge as to who's moving into the district. So the law is you have to accept them. And that's another question now. They're starting to accept them without their vaccinations and their shots. That's another issue that has to be addressed, because the state says they have to have them. But you have a lot of transients who don't have them or coming from another country, so they're trying to work out whether they're temporary shots or what, I don't know. But the smaller is better.
Definitely.
Again, larger enrollment, more classes, more cost. Everything comes down to dollars and cents.
Question for you.
Yes.
The city of Revere, which has one of the best schools in the country, as you know, because
Amen.
of the awards. No, I
Amen.
mean, the record proves it itself.
Yes. Yep.
You got the best superintendent, Mr. Paul Dakin, #1 out of 50. That's not bad when you got 50. If I live in, let's say, Everett, and I want to go to the Revere School, do they have to accept me?
No. No.
But we do have kids that are bused in from other...
No, we don't. No,
Oh, we don't?
No, we don't. We have, the school committee annually votes on whether to, there's a system wherein, as if you have empty seats,
Oh, okay.
you can accept. But the school committee, when I was on it for 12 years, and presently, we do not accept that. There are communities that will accept it, because then they get the state monies per child. There's an allocation that the state, a formula. So there are communities who have extra rooms and everything, they stand to make extra money.
Okay, then my question to you is this, and people have asked me this, and I said, I don't know the answer, but maybe you might, is if a student, let's say from Winthrop, comes into Revere, does the town of Winthrop pay for his education, or the state for his education, or the city of Revere?
Well, okay, maybe we're talking apples and oranges here. If a student is homeless, any community has to accept them.
Oh, okay.
If they register and they come to Revere and they're registered as homeless, that child may be put up in a motel in Saugus. It could be in a motel in Danvers.
Oh.
We are responsible to transport that child from Revere to Danvers and back to Revere and vice versa. The state lately will pay some of the transportation costs. It started as a one-year deal so that they weren't disrupted and had to move to 5 schools in the course of a year. It's the parental responsibility to choose, no, I want my child to stay in Revere, or I want to go to the Danvers school. So usually after that is a year. So there's an added cost to not just Revere. It could happen in Chelsea, it could happen in Lowell, whatever it is like that. So, but that's a specific. They're homeless. But another child coming from, we don't do a scholarship type thing. You want to come to Revere, well, we'll charge you the $13,000, whatever it is per child. No, we don't do that.
Oh, okay. All right, that's good to know, Freddie. Thank you
Yeah.
for the information. You
You're welcome.
enlightened me a little. Thank you very much. Okay, you tell us about yourself. Tell us about some of the accomplishment as a member of the school committee when you were on it.
Well, what I'd like to, like I started to make preference before, I was a school teacher at the Lincoln School. When the Lincoln School burnt down, we had double sessions at the Garfield School. When the new Lincoln was opened, we went there. I was former assistant principal at the Wayland School. So you can see trends, you can see parts of families moving, coming in, out. When you started to the housing, we've been promised by developers, North Revere is a perfect example, Overlook. Well, no, this is going to be just professional people and all that. Well, you've got 900 units, 1,000 units, whatever it is, you got kids. On Broadway, next to across from City Hall, the
Reardon's Restaurant where it used to be?
well, no, right across from the Legion building.
Oh, the
there's
250,
condo.
yep.
Beautiful condos and everything else. The market dropped down. It's the first time I'd ever seen advertised Section 8.
For
So-
250 Broadway?
Right. I would say the majority of people living there are Section 8, which, fine, they have housing, but they bring numbers of children coming in. They're in the school system. We educate them. If they have special needs, we educate them. So the more they develop housing, promises go out the window. Now, the new one that they're proposing at the old Shaw's Market, I don't know if they're talking 800 units or whatever.
They were talking 300, I think.
300?
Yeah.
But there's got to be children somewhere in there.
Oh, definitely.
But I guess from what I've read and the coverage was that it is currently zoned commercial,
Right.
which would need a variance or whatever they do to make it residential. Well, there's more, the city stands to benefit, I believe, more from commercial property tax-wise than from residential. Because with residential, you have, they pay a tax. Now, if you have 2 children, it's $13,000 a child, so there's $26,000. You have trash collection, police protection,
Water, sewage. the whole
sewerage, everything,
Right.
all that. So now, if they pay $3,000 a year in taxes, you're returning $40,000 worth of services. So, it's pro and con what you want. The units that they're building down on Ocean Avenue, I mean, my own personal feeling, it looks like something from Disneyland. The colors, it's built on the sidewalk, the traffic congestion, and Revere has enough of it that they don't need more of it. But I'm not in a position to make these decisions. That's the city council, that's the mayor's office, the zoning and everything else. But as a former school committee member, we very, very strongly kind of put the brakes on it because we've built 5 new schools. In my tenure on the school committee, along with my fellow school committee members, you have the new Wayland School, you have the Susan B. Anthony, you have the Rumney Marsh Academy, you have the Paul Revere School, which is an innovative school, which was the first one in the state through Dr. Dakin's intercession. So you have the capacity is straining now, and the Hill School, which is online now, the first day the kids went back last year, there are a little leadway, but they've got to reassign the area because the old Ackenbach School on Park Avenue, those children were bused to the Wayland School. So I'm assuming, and then this is something with the new superintendent, and if I'm back on the school committee we can discuss, that they will probably channel those children back down, which will free up some seats at the local schools, and that's another thing I'll talk about a little bit later. But again, it's all dollars and cents.
Okie dokie. Now, if you were on the school committee now, this is a question we went over before, but I think you can answer it a lot better than I can. What will you propose as a member of the school committee?
Well, a few things that I tried to do when I was a member of the committee was that number one is the Lincoln School. The city bonded $10 million for improvements to the schools and for betterments and plant maintenance. And the Lincoln School was promised as part of that grant money, a new heating system, new windows, and air conditioning. Apparently there were priorities elsewhere. They did get the new heating system. They did not get the new windows, and definitely not air conditioning. So now that the McKinley is closed and it's now the Hill School, every school has air conditioning but the Lincoln School. So that's something that I would like to see reopened, especially the day outside today where it's so hot.
You know what I noticed, Freddie? I was working the polls at the Garfield School.
Yeah.
And when I was and I was looking at the kids, and when I was their age, 5, 6, 7, going to kindergarten, we started classes at 9 o'clock. At 7:30, buses were pulling up there with the loads of kids and dropping them off there. What time do they start school now?
Well, we talked about the Poirier Revere School, which is an innovative school. They set their own schedules. They start school at a different time. They have a half-day Wednesdays where the children can stay in school or go home. They have their own school committee. So that is a little bit different. The starting time goes pretty much with the bus schedule, because the city has some of its own vans and some of its own buses. Some have to do a double run.
Oh, I see.
There's talk with the high school they want to start later because older children go to bed later and they're not too sharp in the morning. So there's always that starting time. Most of the schools start about 8:10, 8:20. The extended day starts a little bit earlier because they go until 4:40 or 4:50.
See, we didn't go. We went from 9 to 3. That was our time at school at the time. And we didn't have busing, by the way. We walked.
Wow. That was and in fact, in Revere at that time, there was no busing. Beachmont, they had the straight bus that used to come down, and that was it. Oh, I'm sorry, not Revere, they transported them down. Other than that, you got to where you were going. No?
That's pretty good. That's pretty good. Now I'd like to talk about adding new teachers. Now, what are some of the, for the kids that are graduating from college who want to be teachers, what are some of the qualifications for adding new teachers to the Revere School?
Well, there again, this has taken on a whole new life. When I graduated from Salem State, all the state schools were teachers' colleges. Each one had a specialization. Bridgewater was, I believe, phys ed. Fitchburg was industrial arts. Lowell was music. Salem was elementary education. As time progressed, they went with more liberal arts rather than the specifics. Now there's School of Nursing, School of Education, and the whole thing. And once you got certified as an elementary teacher, a junior high in those days teacher, that was your certification for life. Within the last 10 years, they have come up with every 5 years you have to be recertified. They have different standards, provisional standing, functioning. Their teachers, there's more evaluation going on. They have to do PDs, professional development courses, which the school itself gives, or they have to go to places to have it to upgrade. They have to do so many PDs in a 5-year period, and they have to start the whole certification again. So most teachers, the state law is that must attain a master's degree also.
I was going to ask you about that. So it's above, beyond a Bachelor of Science.
Correct. They have to have the master's. And specifications, specifics are a little more stringent rather than general certification. If it's science, it's science. And you better be well versed in science. So the content is more in-depth than it was.
Right. Today I noticed they teach in the high school algebra, geometry, trigonometry, analytic geometry that the kids were taking. When I was a young man, all we had was algebra and geometry. The trick courses were taught in colleges at my age, but now they're taught in high school.
Well, going on what you're saying, nowadays there are high schools that are actually in touch with or part of an agreement with colleges. Kids are actually getting college credits as high school students. And I know that I'm 90% sure that Salem State has something going on with Revere High School, but most surrounding communities, when a senior graduates, they will have 3 credits, 6 credits, 9 credits at a college.
Before they even get to that college.
Yep.
Right.
See, in education, when you and I were back there,
Well, I'm
know,
a lot older than you, Freddie.
but the difference is that in order to be competitive, it is so imperative that you have to be able to do X, Y, Z. Right now, it's A, B, C, D. You got to go all the way through it. So between the computerization, between the state mandators, the testing, which is pro and con, whether it's good, bad, or indifferent, it is just part of the process of educating.
I went to Harrod High School in New York, and it's a technical school, and they had an annex up on 99th Street and 3rd Avenue. And they had a shop there, and we used to go there. We would study our geometry or descriptive geometry, and that's as far as we went. We never went above like triangles, except when we learned to play geometry. Today, you speak to the kids, they're geniuses, but I also notice they all rely on one thing, the computer. If the electricity goes off or the battery dies, what happens then?
Well, you know, it's interesting because I can remember back a few years when one of my kindergarten teachers came to me and asked for, they used to have the little brass fasteners. And, okay, well, she was doing a project with the kids. What she did was she made clock faces because the kids couldn't tell time on a round clock. They could tell digital time, but they couldn't tell time on the clock. So they, you know, they put the hands and they could tell time. So it's the technology that people like you and I aren't that hep on, but the kids know it. They know it.
I got a great-granddaughter. Sienna, if you're watching, Grandpa Morris says, 4 years old, right? Knows how to work a computer a lot better than yours truly. Figure that out. And she's not even in kindergarten, not regular school yet. She goes to pre-kindergarten class. They teach them that.
Yeah. Another thing, Morris, when I'm back on the school committee, is that the topic of conversation on the lottery in order to fill the junior high seats. See, I use the term junior high, now it's middle school.
Right.
The systems around, I know that Linfield has 5, 6, 7, and 8th grade as their middle school. Revere, as most communities, has 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. So when a 5th grader leaves, say, the Wayland School, they have a choice of where they want to go, whether it's the Wayland, the Susan B. Anthony, Rumney Marsh Academy, or the Garfield. And the allocation comes from the enrollment of the receiving school or the ascending school. So they may have 20 seats at this here, 15. They try to even it out. And when I taught at the Lincoln School, Dr. Melifitano, who was principal at the time, he departmentalized the 6th grade, which meant I took all the social studies. So the kids would come to me, the bell would ring, they'd go to the next class for math, they'd go for this. So when they got up into the junior high, they were already used to changing around. And I feel that if this were to be done and the 6th graders stayed in their school, then they would have enough in the local one so that there would be no lottery. But this is something I'd like to discuss with school committee members as well as with the new superintendent, Dr. Kelly, because I think it could be worked out, especially now freeing up some space with the new Hill School and all that. But I think that a lot of parents are, when I was on the committee, most of the complaints were they weren't comfortable with the lottery. If they lived across the street from a school, why can't my kid go to that school? Well, the allocation's not allowed. So it's on a small scale, but it means a lot.
You mean if someone lived right across the street, let's say from the Garfield School,
right?
he could not go to the Garfield?
Well, the Garfield's different because there's always seats at the Garfield. First choice, usually, or second choice is either the Susan B. Anthony or the Rumney Marsh Academy. So that in order for fairness, that's where the lottery comes up. Now, if a school has, say the Wayland, the kids that want to go to the Susan B. Anthony, say there's 42 seats available for the kids from that district, and there's 38 of them. Well, there's no problem. They can all go there,
right,
because they're allocated. But if there's 45 and there's only 42 seats, then 3 have to draw to see who's going there. And this is what kind of irritates parents who will buy a home in a certain district assuming that they were going to go. In days of yore, the Paul Revere had it up to the 8th grade. The Lincoln School went to the 8th grade. A few years at the Wayland School, we had it to the 8th grade. But everything changes. Time changes.
I was going to say that when I went to school, it was up to the 8th grade, public school, and everybody went to the one public school where we lived.
Yep.
And then we had the high school for 4 years, and that was it.
The only difference in Revere was the Paul Revere years ago had a 9th grade, and the Garfield had a 9th grade. So those of us on this side of Broadway who went to the high school went as 9th graders.
So that means you only had 3 years of high school?
No, they did their 9th grade at their school, and they came to the high school as 10th graders. So that's when we would all mesh. But those from the central area would go to the high school 9th, 10th, 11th, and 12th. Those from the Paul Revere and from the Garfield would do their 9th grade and then go to the high school for 10, 11, and 12.
Right. Yep, so we had the 8 years and the 4 years, which is the same thing
Yeah.
then.
Yeah.
Okay, they just name it a little different. Freddie, we got about 2 minutes left. So take a minute and plus and whatever you wish to talk about.
Well, I would like to comment on your programming. It's kind of interesting where you can just free express yourself. It's not a scripted type entertaining aspect, and not knowing it I think is refreshing. Whereas sometimes we get so sedate in what we do that it's predictable, and life is not predictable. And I'd like my hats off to you and for cable for allowing this kind of a programming.
It's a pleasure for us to have people like you come on here
thank you.
because and
Thank
explain
you.
everything to us. Because not everybody is as smart as some of the people out there.
Well,
Hey, you're
that's-
looking at one right here.
Well, but the thing there too is it's all in experience. It's all in how people present it and how people present themselves.
You know,
And
I
that's
always
it.
said you're never too old to learn, and I learn a lot by having great people like you come on
Thank
our
you.
show.
I appreciate that.
Right, so Freddie,
All
I
right,
got to
thank
take
you
the
very
time
much.
off to thank you. God
Thank
bless you
you.
for coming on here. Let me wish you good luck on your school committee election.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Very nice of you.
Okay, and I want to say to the people out there, thank you for listening. God bless you out there. God bless our troops, and especially our great country, the United States of America. And thank you for watching till the next time. Thank you, folks.